Why is right now the best time for senior housing? Well, it's the demographics. They are off the charts. This is a 100-year projection from 1960 to 2060 right here. And I want you to notice two things on this chart. That upper part right there, that 85 plus generation. You see how many more millions and millions of people are turning 85 and older as we go into the future. With modern advances in technology and medicine, people are living a lot longer and they need a place to live. See, right now, the generation that's in assisted living is the silent generation. And there's 47 million people who are in that generation. But right behind them is that baby boomer spike of 76 million people in that generation. And they need great assisted living homes to live in. So why residential assisted living? Well, the demographics, they are unstoppable. A silver tsunami of seniors that's coming. The timing. This is a 20-year long wave starting right now. And third, it's inevitable. You will get involved one way or another. Because here's the thing, whether you like it or not, we all play this game. We all come from a mom and dad, and many of us, we're going to put a mom or dad into a facility or a home. Or, hey, we're all going to have to go into one of these homes one day, or you can own one of these homes and do good and do well. So what do you really want? I think for a lot of people, they want purpose. They want to do good and they want to do well. They're looking for security, the best options in real estate and business, and wealth. They want cash flow, secure assets, and a legacy of financial freedom. So what's going to change this year? Jeff Bezos was asked this question once, and I thought his response was brilliant. He said, I think the better question to ask ourselves is what's not going to change? When it comes to what's not going to change, taking care of mom, taking care of dad, that's definitely not going to change. See, over the past few years, people realized, they said, you know what? The way that mom and dad have been being taken care of, we're not going to stand for it anymore. You know what? We're going to do something different. When we talk about disrupting an industry, you think about companies like Uber with the taxi industry, and then Airbnb with the hotel and accommodations industry. In the senior housing space, the Residential Assisted Living Academy is disrupting the industry of senior housing, and we welcome you to join us in this movement. Let me ask you a question. How much do you need each month to cover your personal expenses? And I want you to get honest with yourself. I mean, between, the house and the cars and the kids and the food and the fun, what is that number for you truly? Seriously, if you actually add that up, what is that number for you? And I won't ask you to put that in the chat, but I will ask you to write that down on a little piece of paper so you can see it. You can visually see it. When you ask that question, for a lot of people, they say, if I had $10,000 a month, maybe even less, but $10,000 a month, I can get by and, live a good life. I'm good. So if $10,000 a month is the question of how do we get to it, well, then we start looking at our options. And when we look at an option for single family homes, you got things like fix and flips. And that can give you cash now. And fix and flips can be great. But once you fix it and once you flip it, you're essentially out of the job and you're looking for that next opportunity. So you got to go out there and hunt again and again and again. And if any of you are done with doing that, put that in the chat and just say, I'm done. All right. Rental homes. Rental homes are great, but if they're making a couple $100s a month, that's good if you're in high school. But as an adult, you got to have a lot of those to get by, and not only to get by, but to thrive. Oh man. So when it comes to rental homes, if you got a lot of money that you can put into them, that's a great way to go. But if you don't have a lot of money, then that's kind of a slow way to get to that goal. What about leasing out to a group home? Maybe higher cash flow right here, maybe $1,000 or $2,000 a month. I'm going to show you some options on how to do this. And that might be an option that some of you want to go down. But what about Airbnb? Airbnb is kind of that fun, sexy thing in the real estate investing world. Well, why do you guys own and operate residential assisted living homes instead of doing Airbnbs? Well, one of the things is the income. With an Airbnb, you might be making $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. Hey, that's great. But I'm going to show you here in a little bit how we're making $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month with one residential assisted living home. And that's not just like, oh, then we take out the expenses. No. That's after we take out the expenses. I'll show you how we get to those numbers. Just hold on. I'll get to it. But we can do very, very well financially. More important than that, though, we get to do good. It's not we're throwing some bachelorette party or, bachelor party and people are throwing up in the bushes and doing God knows what in the rooms. No. We are changing lives. We are positively impacting the world. We are making a huge, huge difference. And that's an awesome thing. Last, one of the really, really cool things about residential assisted living is, let me ask you a question. And you said you're going to participate. So write this in the chat. What is the first thing to go during a recession? Is it the fancy Airbnb vacation to La Jolla, California? Or is it mom and dad's senior housing care needs? I'll let you answer that one for yourself. But I mean, seriously, ask yourself that. What's the first thing to go during a recession? One of the things about residential assisted living is that over previous recessions, it's actually done pretty darn well, if not really, really good. Because during a recession, it's not one of those things that you can just get rid of or stop doing. No, the first thing to go is the vacation. So residential assisted living over the past few recessions has fared very, very well. And so that's a really cool thing about this. Whether the market's good, whether the market's bad, historically it's done very, very well. I love this quote by Wayne Gretzky. He was the greatest hockey player ever to live. And he says, I skate to where the puck is going, not to where it's been. I know some of you listening right now have been saying, I've had a lot of success in real estate with this or that, but the markets are shifting and you see it. And now it's time to look at, where is that puck going? I love this quote by Wayne Gretzky too. I got it right here behind me. I got it framed because I love that quote so much. This quote by Wayne Gretzky / Michael Scott says, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. I know some of you listening right now are going, you know what? I thought about this. I thought about another thing. I thought about apartments, thought about fixed flips. Well, here's the thing with assisted living. There is a silver tsunami that is coming to hit the shores. And if you are not ready for this, well, you are going to get washed away. But if you are prepared for this, this could be the opportunity of a lifetime for the next 10, 20 plus years. So is it a crisis or is it an opportunity? Well, that all depends on if you're prepared or not. In a moment, I'm going to share how my father took a crisis that was going on in his life and turned it into the opportunity of a lifetime. My father, he was the founder of the Residential Assisted Living Academy. And we are deeply saddened that we actually lost my father a number of months ago. We're very, very sad about that. But we're incredibly proud and honored that we get to carry out his legacy of teaching others how to do good and do well. And we get to honor him every day with what we do. But, my father, we often get told, I'm sorry that you lost him. I'm sorry that you lost him. And here's the thing. We didn't lose him. We know exactly where he is. So if you ever want to have that conversation, we're happy to have that with you. But my father, it was a pretty incredible journey that he had. He bought his first residential property at the age of 18. First commercial property at 25, owned over 20 businesses over the past 40 years. He was a musician, a recording artist, trainer, mentor, certified financial planner, real estate investor. He trained over 300,000 people worldwide, wrote 4 books, hosted 3 radio shows. But what he was most proud of was that he was married for 35 years, 4 incredible children, 1 extremely exceptional child, and 3 grandkids. Little humor for you. But my father is best known for starting the Residential Assisted Living Academy, a family business that's still going on to this day. But he was one of the foremost authorities in the senior housing space, starting companies like the Assisted Living Academy and Family Legacy Homes, the AL Network, the National Association, and the National Convention. He was one of the biggest authorities in the senior housing space. But it all started with a decision. See, my father, we were living in Arizona, and my grandmother, she lived in upstate New York. And one night, my dad got a call, and the call was that Grandma fell. She fell, and we got to do something about it. So he flew up to New York, and he saw my grandmother, and he said, oh my goodness, we got to figure something out. And so he started to look at what the options were available around him. And he saw what many of you have seen. Dark, long hallways, bad caregiver to resident ratios. And he said, no, not for my mom. I got to do something better. And that's when he turned that crisis into an opportunity. He said, how can I make this work? And he said, you know what? I'm going to start a residential assisted living home that I'd be incredibly proud to put my own mother in. So he started that first home, and then the second home, and then the third home. But even by the time he had finished the second home, people were coming up to him and saying, hey, what are you doing? This is really cool. You're doing good. You're doing well. You got these homes. And that's how we got started teaching on how to do this. Because when we were starting, there was no one out there to show us how to do this properly. So my dad made that vow. He said, you know what? If someone is serious about doing good and doing well, then I will be there to teach them. And that's what he did. He started the Assisted Living Academy. Flash forward 7, 8 years later, we've trained thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs across the country and have positively impacted millions and millions of people. It's amazing what you can do when you make that commitment to do good and do well. One of the really cool things is my dad was able to pass on a legacy of financial freedom to me. And I'm looking forward to passing on that legacy of financial freedom to my son, Abel, right there. We've had a lot of success over the years, but for me, it wasn't always that way. My personal story, this is me and my dad creating our first real estate empire right here. When I was a kid, I had an amazing childhood. My dad, he worked at a really awesome company. He was one of the best people who worked there. But when I was 14, everything kind of changed. See, I remember the day like it was yesterday. I was at the park and my friends told me about this soda and Mentos. Do I need to say more? This picture speaks 1,000 words. See, if you take soda and Mentos, you put them together, well, it explodes. And that's pretty cool when you're 14 years old. So I remember calling my mom that day and I said, Mom, I need to have some money for soda and Mentos. You put them together and it explodes. And she just cuts me off. And she goes, Manny, your dad lost his job. We don't have money for soda and Mentos. No. Whew. I remember that being a really, really tough time. See, my dad was one of the best employees at that company, but that company went under during the recession. I remember seeing my dad have to short sale the dream home that he had really, really loved. I remember seeing him turn in his Lexus for a dinged up and dented Honda Fit. Those were some tough times. But I remember it wasn't long before my father figured out residential assisted living. And my father was my hero. But he wasn't my hero because of all the things he did 8 years later and changing the world and all these things. He was my hero. He became my hero when he was down and out. He was in that struggle. See, I learned a lesson from my father during that time. And the lesson was the difference between the rich and the poor. See, the difference between the rich and the poor has nothing to do with what they have in their pocket. See, a rich person can be broke. They can have no money. But a rich person, when they're confronted with a challenge, an issue, a crisis, they say, how can I make it work? Their brain turns on, it looks for the solution, it finds a way, and it gets it done. See, let me ask you a question. If these two men right here, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, lost all their money, do we think that they might be able to get it back? Yeah, I think so. But what about when this guy wins the lottery? He's got a lot of money too, 128 million. But does this guy keep that money or does it kind of all go away? Yeah, that thing goes away. And do they ever get it back? No. Is their life better or worse after they win the lottery? Well, it's much worse. So during that time, I learned that lesson from my father to always ask myself that question, how can I make it work? But I remember as the years passed, I was now about 18 years old. I had just graduated high school. I was going to community college and I had actually just flunked out. And I moved into my parents' basement and I was struggling. See, I remember those times and, I was kind of down and out. And I really needed someone to believe in me. I remember my father coming down to the basement and he said, Manny, get in the car. We're going to a real estate event. And I said, come on. I don't want to go to that. And he said, Manny, you're going to live under my roof. You're going to live under my rules. Get in the car. I said, okay, fine. But I'm so glad that I did get in that car because when we went to that event, there was a man in front of the room and he completely changed my life. And he gave us an exercise and it was a gift that entirely changed my life. And the gift was this. He said, I want you to dream. What are your goals in life and business and your relationships? And what's that freedom number that we talked about earlier? And then he said, write down why you must make a change. And I remember after seeing this, I just started to write. And when I was done, there was really three main things on that page. The first was that I wanted to graduate college. I said, if I can graduate college, my dad, he's had a lot of success, but he hasn't been able to do that. I said, I know he'd be proud of me. Second, I said, I want to have enough money that I could retire by the time that I'm 30 if I want to, because I don't want my son to have to go through what I went through. That was tough. And last, I said, you know what? If I can have enough money that I can retire before I'm 30, then I want to do a TED Talk. So that way I can start inspiring that next generation. So I remember going home that day and I went down to that same basement, but everything had changed because now I had my sights on that vision, on those goals. And I said, how can I make it work? My brain went to work and it said, you know what? You need knowledge. You need to learn. And so I started to read. I started to read and read and read. And, a couple hundred books in, I come across this one, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I don't think Robert had any idea the impact that this book would make when he was writing it. Over 32 million copies sold of this book. And when I read through it, I just said, oh my goodness, this book is incredible. I remember reading about the rat race and assets and liabilities. And it was just so incredible learning about all these concepts. But I remember a few weeks after reading this book, my father and I went to another real estate event. And when we went to this real estate event, I remember we were sitting in the back, we were just kind of sitting there quietly. And all of a sudden, on the other side of the room, the doors open up and you guessed it, Mr. Robert Kiyosaki walks in. And I'm going, oh my goodness, Dad, Robert Kiyosaki's here. And this is so cool. And then Robert starts walking towards us. And I'm like, are we in trouble or something? What's going on here? And he walks right up to my father and he says, hey, you're the assisted living guy. I got some questions for you. And I remember going, whoa, moment of Zen. Robert Kiyosaki is talking to my dad, asking him questions. I said, that is pretty cool. See, Robert, he was looking to start an assisted living facility, and he was looking to convert one of his commercial properties. And he wanted to consult with my father and ask him different questions like, should I do memory care? Or should I do assisted living or shared bedrooms or private bedrooms? And, all these different things. And I remember that friendship starting to form. And yes, that is my mom photobombing in the back right there. This is them at Robert's 70th birthday party right here. But I remember that friendship starting to form. And this photo right here is them at the New Orleans Investors Conference before they got on stage together. This is them. They were backstage. And my dad went up to Robert. He said, Robert, how is that project going that we were talking about? And he said, oh, it's going great. We just got approved for a $110 million loan. My dad's going, that's phenomenal. Now you might be going, wait, hold on. Why is your dad saying that's phenomenal? Don't they both live in Phoenix and Scottsdale? And aren't they worried about competition and this thing? Well, hold on. See, my dad was thinking a little bit differently. I want you to think about it a little bit differently. Robert Kiyosaki is doing a $110 million project. He's trying to fill hundreds and hundreds of beds. We're trying to fill 10 beds, 15 beds. Robert might even be trying to do 1,000 beds. He might be trying to do 1% of what he's doing. Robert is doing a $110 million project. We might be doing 1% of that, 2% of that, 0.5% of that. A lot smaller than what he's doing. Is that doable? And if Robert Kiyosaki is doing a $110 million project, what does that tell you about the demand that we have in this industry? Yeah, it's pretty darn huge. I remember after that first initial meeting, I turned over to my dad and I just said, Dad, whatever you need from me, you just let me know and I am in. And he said, Manny, we need someone to find our students off-market deals and homes that would be great to turn into assisted livings. And I said, Dad, I'm on it. And so at that point, I was in college. I was working as a waiter, making $12,000 a year, working every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. That was hard work. But I remember when I got into real estate, I dove in and I was prepared for that opportunity. My first check that I made, and this is me holding it, was for $15,000. And I made it in about 1 week's worth of work. I learned the lesson. It's about working smarter, not harder. Type in yes if you agree. After that, I graduated college with a degree in wellness and I found the woman of my dreams. And then we got married. And then we made the most incredible little baby right there, little baby Abel. We love him so much. After that, Beck and I, we started to work together and we started to sell more and more residential assisted living homes. And then we're getting invited on to top podcasts across the country. And before you know it, we had done it. We'd become the top residential assisted living realtors in Arizona. And we were able to check off that second box of having enough money to be able to retire before we were 30. But there was one more thing that I had written down that first day. And that thing was to do a TED Talk. Now, I remember when I got invited to do that TED Talk. And, here's the thing. I had been wanting to do it for about 8 to 10 years at that point. And when the opportunity finally presented itself, I said, I can't do this. My TED Talk will be the worst TED Talk ever. And that will be the title of my TED Talk, the worst TED Talk ever. I said, I can't do this. But I remember talking to my wife and telling her my thoughts that I was having. And she said, you know what, Manny? Even if you do the worst TED Talk ever, if it can positively impact one person's life, then we'll all have been worth it. I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. So I got on that plane. I flew over. It was in the Netherlands that I did my talk. And I remember doing the talk. It was called The Idiot's Recipe for Success, my story from the basement to being able to retire if I wanted to before I was 30. And as I was leaving that theater and exiting the stage, a young man came up to me and he tapped me on the shoulder and he said, hey, I really appreciated your talk. And I'm kind of down and out like you were in the beginning of your story. Can you help mentor me and get me to that next level? I said, absolutely. And I realized that not only had I checked off that box, but now I was starting to pay it forward. I don't know what you want to achieve, but I want you to be writing down what your goals are in life, in business, in relationships, and that freedom number, that number that if you had coming in each month, you're good. You can do whatever you want with your time, and you can live your life the way that you want to on your terms. And then write down why you must make this change. If I can do this, I know that you can do this. But your commitment is critical to your success. See, if you don't have any reasons to be successful, there's no goals, if there's no why, I don't care what it is, whether it's this, apartments, fix and flip, buy and hold. The second any challenge comes up, you're going to get washed away to the wayside. You're going to be chasing after that next shiny penny. No, you got to be committed. You got to be willing to do what it takes. Because I'm not going to tell you this is going to be easy, but I'm going to tell you that this is going to be worth it. And that's far more important than something being easy. So if you're committed, I can help you. But if you're not, well, you got to get clear on that why. See, we're all going to get involved in this business one way or another. And now the choice is to find out how. So let's go over the 3 smartest ways to participate in residential assisted living. There's 2 parts of this, the real estate and the business. Now, on the first side, you can own the real estate and lease it to an operator. Now, there's some benefits to this, and one of them is you can get twice the fair market rent. Now, you see that I have an asterisk next to that, and that's because that's usually if you're in the right area and you're doing it properly. See, it's not just any home in any area. It's the right home in the right area that's set up properly. Now, the reason why you see twice the fair market rent is it's a simple supply and demand issue. There's not a lot of great homes in the right area that are done properly. So if you have all those things, then that's what you usually see that you can get. Long-term tenants. This one right here, long-term tenants, usually we are seeing our tenants be a 3 to 5 year lease. I have a new baby boy. That's why I was had a little 3 to 5 year lease that we have for our tenants in our homes, not 3 to 5 days or 3 to 5 months, long term. And so that's a beautiful thing right there. Less turnover because they want to be in there for a very, very long time. Third, low impact. The tenants in the home, they are making sure that that home shines like a diamond. They want it to smell good, look good, feel good because they are touring that home for prospective residents to move in. So they actually are making it look as good as possible for when that person is touring that home. So that's a great thing. Now, the second way to do this is to own the real estate and operate the residential assisted living business. Now, this is a great way to go, and I'm going to share on how to do this a little bit more in just a second. But I think when I'm done explaining this, this is a way that a lot of you are going to want to do because for a little bit more work, well, there's a whole lot more on the return side. So I'll share that here in just a moment. But third, be a private lender or a joint venture partner. Maybe you're just saying, you know what? I want to send out my money and I want to get a good return on it. Well, there's a place for you because whether you have all the money in the world or no money, there's ways for you to get started and ways for you to be involved in assisted living. But really what it helps you get to is that financial freedom number. So what's everyone else doing? I mean, there's a whole lot of things out there like wholesaling and fix and flips, rental homes, storage units, short-term rentals, mobile homes, raw land. But here's the thing. There's kind of a low barrier to entry to a lot of these things. And so there's a lot of people on the bandwagon. I mean, right now, I ask the room how many people are doing residential assisted living right now, very, very few, probably nobody would say, yeah, I'm doing that. So there's a lot of people on the bandwagon with all those other things. But you might be saying, well, no one's on the bandwagon because, all the myths like the liabilities through the roof, or you have to personally work in the home, or I need medical experience, or you can't find employees, or the HOA won't let me do this, the seniors can't afford this. Well, here's the thing, those are the myths. And this is the thing. This is why we created the one and done REO blueprint. We got all those things handled. We got you covered. Because when we were getting started in this industry, there was no one there to show us how to get through all those things. This is why we created the one and done REO blueprint. Because here's the facts. Right now, there's 77 million baby boomers in the US, and there are 10,000 people a day turning 65 years old, and there are 4,000 people a day turning 85 years old. Now, the 85-year-old person is moving in if they're not already moved in, but you see there's 4,000 people a day turning 85 and 10,000 people a day turning 65. A massive silver tsunami is coming to hit the shore. Now, 90% of those seniors would rather stay in their own homes. Why is this important to know? Well, people often ask, why doesn't everybody just live in their own home? Well, it's very, very expensive to do that. The going rate is about $24 an hour to have someone come and be in your home with you. And so if you do the math on that, it's about $15,000, $20,000 a month once you're done with all that and paying for the expenses of your own home. So for a lot of people, that's not a financially feasible option. Now, 70% of people will need daily care for an average of 3.5 years. They need a home, they need assistance, they need you to take action. But here's the thing, you got to be clear on your purpose. See, I believe that successful people make decisions quickly. Type in the chat, yes, if you agree with that. Now, let me say that again. Successful people make decisions quickly. Type in the chat, yes, if you agree. If you're not typing yes, that's the whole point. See, here's the thing. I said quickly, not rashly, right? You need to know what you need to know, but when your heart and your mind is in the right place, when that why is strong, you can make those decisions. Because on the road to success, you're going to have to make a lot of decisions. When your heart and your mind and that why is strong, you can make those decisions and you can keep moving forward and get to that finish line. So we've gone over the do good. Let's go over the do well. How much money can you make? Well, let's understand some of the fundamentals. How much does assisted living cost? This is an organization right here, Genworth. And if you go to www.genworth.com/cost of care, what this organization does is they survey all the big boxes and residential assisted living homes, and they ask them different questions. One of those questions is, how much does it cost to live in your assisted living facility or home? Now, there's about 30,000 communities between the residential ones and the large facilities. They send out those surveys, they get a number of those responses back, and they give that information to us. So the national average to live in a private room in assisted living, $4,300 per person per month. Now, this right here, $4,300 per person per month, you might be going, that's a lot. That's too much. I don't understand. That's so much. Well, pause. Think about your own home budget for a second. Between the kids, the food, the fun, the electricity, the entertainment, all of that. For most Americans, that number is probably 4,000 to 6,000 for them to get by and to live and, a good life. This number right here, that 4,300, that's everything. That's food, that's entertainment, that's you name it. On top of that, that's the care, helping out with laundry and food and getting up and out of bed. All of those things are included in that 4,300. So when you actually think about it, it's a pretty darn good value that you're getting for that $4,300 per month. So let's look at some big cities across the country. Kansas City, $4,460. Indianapolis, $4,573. Minneapolis, $4,797. Houston, $4,750. Denver, $4,850. Yeah, but Manny, I live in one of those giant big cities and it's too expensive to do this. Well, let's look at those big cities, because you know what else is really expensive in those expensive big cities? Assisted living care. So let's look at it. Chicago, $4,950. Now, before I even continue, this is the average. So there's people paying 2 and 3 times this amount, and there's people paying half this amount. But this is the average right here. So I want to make sure I point that out. Philadelphia, $5,550. New York City, $9, under $6,000 a month to live in an assisted living right there. San Francisco, $6,100. But even more than that, the new New York City, Seattle, $6,750. $250 under $7,000. Now, I know some of you are just going, wow. If you didn't know how much assisted living cost until now, go ahead and put wow in the chat. Because here's the thing, even if you just do one of these homes, so that way your parents are set up, they're taken care of, and you don't have to worry about them. You are taken care of when that time comes, and then you can pass on a legacy of financial freedom instead of a financial burden to your offspring. So even if you're just going to do one so that way you are set. So let's get into the financials. Could one RAL home set you free? Well, let's go through it. Let's say we have an average home, $4,300 per person per month in a home. And let's say that we have a home license for 10 beds. Now, our sweet spot is 6 to 16 beds in one of these homes. So 10 beds, kind of right there in the middle. We got that. So that one home is giving us a potential monthly gross income of $43,000 per month. Now, that's the gross income. That's not what we get to take home. We have expenses. So let's go ahead. Let's dive into the overhead. So when we look at the typical expenses, we see things like cable and internet and phone, newspaper, magazines, activities for residents, food and supplies. And then you got things like caregivers, facility managers, and insurance. Now, I'm going to put two numbers down below, $28,000 and $18,000. Now, besides the obvious difference of $10,000 a month, the difference between these two numbers is doing it yourself, living in the home, working in the home, being the cook, the baker, the candlestick maker, working in your business versus working on your business, which is what we do and what we recommend. See, we're going to use the higher expenses, the $28,000, because we're going to hire out a manager. And that manager is going to oversee the caregivers and the residents, and they're going to be the one that's in charge of that. And we're going to work on our business, overseeing the business, not working in the business, working on our business. See, the way that we like to do things is like Richard Branson. This gentleman right here, he's the CEO of Virgin. He has over 400 companies, doesn't have a single desk, lives on a private island, and hangs out with some of the most amazing people in the whole wide world. See, this gentleman works on his business, not in his business. And that's how we teach you how to do this, so that way you can do the things that you want to with your time. So $4,300 times 10, $43,000 for the gross. We're going to use $28,000 for the expenses. We're missing one thing though, and that's the debt service, the mortgage, or the rent. So I'm going to put a number in here, $5,000 per month. Can we get a decent home to a slightly above average home for $5,000 a month? Yeah, you bet. That home, $10,000 a month, $120,000 over the course of the year. Now, I want us to pause for a second and look at that, because that number, 10,000, I gave you that exercise earlier, and some of you said, hey, if I had 7,000, I'm good. If I had 8,000, I'm good. If I had 10,000, I'm good. Well, there you go. One home, and you're there. See, a lot of you are thinking, well, I need to get 100 rental properties or 50 rental properties, and I need to do this, I need to do that. And you might just be one home away from getting to your goals. One home. Now, I want you to also notice that word at the top right there. The sample average. None of you on here right now are average. You guys are well above average, that's for sure. So let's think a little bit nicer, shall we? $5,500 per person per month. Home license for 10 beds, $55,000 for the monthly gross income, $28,000 for the expenses. Well, why are people paying more? I don't understand. Well, it's a nicer home in a nicer area. $7,000 per month for that mortgage. Can we get a nice home for $7,000 per month? Yeah, you bet. That home, $20,000 over the course of the month, $240,000 over the course of the year. Now, what I want to point out right here is doing a home that's bringing in $20,000 is the same work as bringing in a home that's bringing in 10. It's just a nicer home in a nicer area. So if you're going to do the work, you might as well get paid for it. 10,000 is good. 20,000 is better. So now I know some of you are, by the way, if you're getting excited about this, go ahead and type that in the chat. Say, yeah, one and done, or I want one of those homes. Go ahead and put that in there. But some of you are getting really excited. You're like, okay, how big can we take this thing? Oh, yeah, well, we're going there. Let's have some fun with this. Bigger, nicer, luxury, $7,000 per person per month. A home license for 15 beds. By the way, that 7,000 number, it's only $250 above the average in Seattle right there. So a home license for 15 gives us a potential monthly gross income of $105,000 each month. Let's do $50,000 for the expenses. Bring on an extra caregiver. Have a chef in a white jacket. Let's do steak instead of chicken. Let's turn on the heater in the winter. You know, let's do, I'm just joking. We always got the heater on. We're all good. But for the debt service, $15,000 a month. That's no longer an average home or slightly above average. That's the nicest home in the nicest area nearby you. That home, 40,000 over the course of the month, 480 over the course of the year. Now I want us to pause and I want us to take that number in for a second. If you royally, and I mean royally, screwed things up and you only made half of that number, would you be okay with that? I want to ask you that. I want to make sure, okay? Now, if that number doesn't get you excited, I don't know what does. But I also want to point out right here, are you understanding why people like Robert Kiyosaki are putting in $110 million into different projects for assisted livings that are going up? And type in the chat if you've been driving around lately and you've seen assisted livings coming up nearby you. Yeah, there's a reason for it. You see these numbers, and assisted living, by the way, is it getting cheaper as we go, or is it probably getting more and more expensive as time goes on? Yeah, much more. We got a silver tsunami, and it's about being prepared for it. Now, I know some of you are looking at that example right there, and you're going $15,000 a month for the debt service. I can't do that. Well, here's the thing. Ask yourself, how can I make it work? Let's say you go up to a real estate investor and say, I want to lease a home from you for the next 3 to 5 years for twice the fair market rent. I want to lease a home for $15,000 a month from you. Do you think that you'd get anyone who might be interested in hearing you out? Oh, yeah. So always ask yourself, how can I make it work? Let's talk about the 3-pack. One of the concepts that we go over in our training is the 3-pack, doing 3 homes instead of 1. That way you can share resources and have economies of scale, and it can actually lower expenses a little bit. And I want you to imagine this concept of having 3 homes within 30 minutes of each other and bringing in 10 to 20,000 per house, being able to share those supplies. Doing a 3-pack is a concept that we coined at the class right there. So now let's go into the 5 keys to success in residential assisted living. The first one is location. So with location, we got the 3 Ds: density, demand, and demographics. So when we think about that, we want to be in densely populated areas. It's not if you build it, they will come. No. We're doing this in densely populated areas, in the right areas. We show you how to do that in our training. But the demand, we got to make sure that it's not millennials living in the area, it's the right age groups. And so we need to make sure that we have a proper demand. But on top of that, we need to make sure that they're in our sweet spot. I'll go over that here in a moment, but we need to make sure that the demographics make sense. So when we talk about our sweet spot, we need to understand the 5 levels. So when we think about a level 5 assisted living, I want you to think about the nicest home in the nicest area. I mean, this is a photo of Rod Stewart's home right here, probably a $30 million mansion, and Rod Stewart's home probably could be an assisted living at this point, but high end, nicest home in the nicest area. Level 1 is on the opposite end, low end, tri-level trailer park. You better be careful walking through that neighborhood. Level 2, that's kind of okay. But level 3 and level 4, this is what we call our sweet spot. And here's why. When you look at it like a pyramid, it kind of looks like this. That level 3, level 4 area, people paying between 4 to 8,000, we can make the numbers work extremely well with that. I just showed you 3 different examples of that, and those numbers work very, very good. Now, people paying 2,000 and less, well, that's not really where we want to focus on. But people paying level 5, so 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, well, that's not where we want to focus on either, because that might be a little bit too high end. So we want to make sure we're in our sweet spot area right here of level 3, level 4. Now, I don't know if you heard about this story, but 50 Cent, the rapper, he was selling his Connecticut mansion, and someone asked the question, could it become a nursing home? It's got 21 beds, 35 bathrooms. Apparently, 50 Cent has some irritable bowel syndrome, but it was 51,500 square feet. I think this could make a pretty decent assisted living. And when you look at it, you know, the photos of it, I want you to type in the chat what level of a home you think this is. Level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, I think this thing is like a level 7. I mean, this thing is incredible. You got indoor basketball, you got outdoor basketball, you got a weight room to keep the residents strong, you got, you know, a lap pool right here, and you got the little grotto inside, you got a beautiful chef's kitchen right here, and then you got, you know, an entertainment area and all that type of stuff. And there's one challenge though. He was selling the home for $19 million. Well, that's a little rich for my blood personally. But here's the thing. Rapper 50 Cent sells massive Connecticut mansion for almost 16 million less than he originally asked. He sold the home for $2.9 million. Whew. That reminds me of this quote. It's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. That's by Les Brown right there. And I think that's a really, really important quote because are you prepared for your opportunity with residential assisted living? I think about Donald and Talinda. They're over there in Missouri. They had a piece of land and they said, I think this is perfect for this, but there's a big assisted living that's going up down the street. And, we don't know if it's the right area with competition and things like that. And we looked at the area, we looked at everything, and we said, hold on, let's think about this for a second. If one of those $100 million projects is going up down the street, well, they've probably done tens of thousands of dollars of research into that area to make sure that there's older people and they're in that sweet spot that they're looking for. And so that's a great sign because if you can be right at the end of their driveway and someone sees, okay, I can put mom in this giant facility with a 1 to 30 caregiver to resident ratio, or I can put them in a home with a 1 to 5 caregiver to resident ratio, they're much rather going to prefer to put their mom, their dad in your home instead of that big facility right there. So being right at their end of their driveway, that's an awesome thing. Their home was actually so good that they were shouted out on the local news over there in Missouri, and they've just done a fantastic, fantastic job. Donald and Talinda here, thank you to the RAL Academy. The support we received has been amazing. We wouldn't have been able to make this journey without you. Just awesome people too. Step 2, your team. You are not it. It's about building your team and then repeating and scaling. So when I say you're not it, it's about putting that key person in that position for success. For us, that person was Mariella. Mariella had been in the business for 10 years. And when we brought her on the team, we said, okay, you're in charge of the caregivers, the residents, and that's what they're overseeing. It's about putting that key person in that position, training them, and then retaining them properly. Now, with Mariella, she had big goals. She said, hey, I want to go run residential assisted living of my own one day. So what we actually did was we actually bought a home for her, leased it out to her, twice the fair market rent, did that once, did that twice, did that 3 times. By the time it came for her to open up her 4th home, she was able to afford it on her own. And we thought that was a really, really cool thing. But we talk about giving back, doing good, not only for the residents family, your own family, but also these caregivers and managers. We get to help so many people in this industry, and it's just an awesome, awesome thing. Brad and Angie, they are in Kansas, and they started their first home, and they did the more hands-off approach that we teach, where they're overseeing, they're working on the business, not in it, because they wanted to open up a second and then a third home. And so when they opened up that first home, then they said, we want to open up a second home. The bank said we need to do an appraisal on the first home to get the financing for the second. When the bank came out, they appraised the first REL business for $1.3 million. I want to point that out. First business, $1.3 million. They were really excited to fund the second and now our third REL home, and they're well on their way on that third home. They've just done a phenomenal, phenomenal job. Brad and Angie in Kansas. Step 3, your clients. The resident is not your client. Daughter Judy is the key, and then the fill it fast market formula. So who really is your client? Is it the resident or is it the family? Well, it's the family. It's daughter Judy and son Bob, which is who we affectionately call the son or daughter who's most closely associated to mom or dad who's in that home. Now, this person is most likely going to be making the decision for mom, for dad on where they're going to live and how much they're going to pay. And understanding this relationship and who you're marketing to is an incredibly important thing. Wendy, she definitely understood this. She has now 4 homes open since she took the course. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Wendy. You've just done such an amazing job. But Rocky and Sherry, they're phenomenal too. They're in our backyard. Their vision is to open up 100 luxury REL homes and then sell them to a private equity fund. They're excited to be at the right place at the right time. See, those private equity funds, they don't want to write a check for $1 million, even 5 million or 10 million. They want to write big checks. They want to buy a bunch of homes at once because they're not trying to do 100 small deals. They're trying to do one big deal with 100 homes in it. So if you can prepare those and you can position yourself that way, when those private equities are looking for those type of big deals, then you can position yourself as a really, really cool opportunity for them. Step 4, getting paid. We don't want to focus on Medicaid. Private pay residents are the key. And then it's about maximizing long-term care insurance policies. So where does the money come from? Well, one, paid by Medicaid. This one right here, if someone doesn't have any money, they can go to the state and the state will pay them about $2,000 a month. Now, that right there is not really what we want to focus on. That's not our sweet spot. So there's other homes that'd be willing to take them on. But for us, we want to make sure we're in our sweet spot. And we have people who definitely are in that sweet spot that we're going after right there. Subsidized by the VA. If someone has served even one day of wartime effort, then they're eligible for VA benefits. And this can be a great way to subsidize some of those costs. But long-term care insurance. This right here is an insurance policy for when someone needs to move into assisted living. And so this right here is an awesome thing because when they bought that policy, it might have been for $100 per day for when that person needed to move into an assisted living. But with a cost of care rider increase attached to that policy, that $100 a day now might be $200 or $300 a day. And so if you do 200 times 30 days, that's 6,000. What would that be? 300 times 30 days, 9,000. I mean, that's a lot. And that insurance company will just pay that out. And on each one of those policies, there's what's called a maximum billable amount that you can bill to that insurance company. So whether your room costs 4,000 or 8,000, hey, that's fine. But that insurance policy has that amount that you can just bill them out and they'll just pay that out, which is a really cool thing. So then we got cash, IRAs, investments, their home. You've heard the phrase before, you can't take it with you. They have saved up. They have spent their whole lives accumulating that wealth, and now they're going to be spending it. And so that's another way as well. But then this last one, let the kids figure it out. Hey, I took care of them. Now it's time for them to take care of me. So here's the thing. That one is written in red. The cash, the IRAs, investments, long-term care, those are in gold and green. Those are the good ones. Don't leave a financial burden to your kids and make sure that your mom, your dad are prepared. Make sure you are prepared as well. So make sure, like I said, even if you just do one home, do one home. That way you're good. Walt right here, he was one of the best care homeowners in all of Arizona, but he didn't understand maximizing those long-term care insurance policies. And when someone moved into their home, whether they had long-term care or not, he would just charge $5,500. But he realized that he was leaving a lot of money on the table by not maximizing those long-term care insurance policies. It was about $15,000 a month that he was doing that. It was over $1 million over those 15 years. He says, I felt sick to my stomach, but I was grateful to find out too. Thank you to the RAL Academy. Step 5, systems. And the systems are save yourself time, energy, and money. The systems that are critical for your success. So in the real estate, it's about locating the right property. Then once you do that, acquiring and being ready for that opportunity when it presents itself. Then once you have it, it's about doing the proper renovations. We're not just doing these homes any which way. No, there's a certain way that you need to set up your home and you need to do it properly. When it comes to team building, we talked about it. It's about identifying those key team members, training them, and then retaining them with a great work culture. They have to work somewhere. So if they're not working for you, that's a you problem. That's not a them problem. So identifying that key person, training them, and then retaining them. When it comes to operations, you have things like policies and procedures, emergency plans, menus and schedules. So the policies and procedures, how we do each thing in our home. The emergency plans, what if? We have all these things labeled out, drawn out, so that way there's no second guessing, we're good. And then the menus and schedules. So we know exactly what they're eating, proper proteins, fats, and carbs, and then the schedules. It's like a Swiss watch at our homes. We know exactly what's going on at each time during those days. When it comes to the funding, one of the things we go over in our training is the 7 ways to fund your RAL home. So whether you have no money or whether you have all the money in the world, there's different ways for you to get started. But one of those ways is partners. Now, you may have heard this before. Don't partner with friends or family. Well, I'm sorry. I don't know who that leaves you with then. I mean, like enemies and strangers. I mean, seriously, like who does that leave you with? When you're partnering with someone, it's about asking the right questions up front to make sure that it's the right partnership and to make sure that expectations are set up front. So Carla Lee, she was a student of ours. She took this to heart. She learned how to do it the right way. And when she was at the training, she was in her mid-20s. No real estate experience. She wasn't some trust fund kid. In fact, she was pretty much the exact opposite of all that. She says right here, I took the course in February, had a business in July, spoke with others in her area, and for many of them, it took them years to get their doors open. Carla Lee partnered up with the right people. She was able to open up 9 homes in less than 3 years. Now, what's amazing about that is their goals as partners was to build it up and then to sell it off. And that's exactly what they did. She made a very nice check in her mid 20s there, but they sold 5 off to private equity and 4 off to a private buyer. And so that was a really, really cool thing that she did. Sean, he was a very successful salesman, traveling all over the country and doing very well financially, but he wasn't able to spend time the way that he wanted to. After he took the course, he opened his first home after just a couple of months. Now he's got a second home up and running, and now he's working on his third and fourth. But more importantly, he was able to quit his corporate job, and now he can spend time with his family and do the things that he wants to. His home right there, by the way, you see a 2-story home right there. You can do it 2 and 3 stories. That's fine as well. But his homes have been so amazing. He's actually won best care home in his area a couple years running right there. He's just done a phenomenal, phenomenal job. Heather and Kevin, she's a nurse, he's a police officer. And for them, they love their jobs, but they're kind of dangerous. And they said, you know what? We also would love some more financial security just in case something happened to us one day. So you don't have to quit your jobs. They started their home and it's nice having that financial, blanket right there. But also, you don't have to quit your job. You can keep doing what you're doing if you love it. But maybe you're like Scott and Michelle, you're on the opposite side of the scale. You're saying, you know what? We've been working 60 hours a week for years, building someone else's dream, and now it's time to start our own. What's great is they've been able to quit their jobs, and now they can focus on building their dreams, and that's starting a family. That's a really, really cool thing. My question to you at this point is, will you be our next success story? Now, if you're saying yes, then I want to share with you for 5 to 7 minutes on some different ways that we can help you with that journey. And if you're saying yes, you want to hear about that, then I welcome you to stay on as I go through that process. This is why we created the one and done REO blueprint for people who are serious about doing good and doing well. Because right now, you got 3 choices. And the choices are you can do nothing, you can forget what you learned, you can try to do it yourself and hope to make it work on your own, or you can join us and fast track your success. Because I want you to experience that future that you wrote down on that piece of paper. Because I don't know if that's, traveling to someplace new with that person that you love. Or maybe it's going on that amazing family vacation. Or maybe it's working with your family. Maybe it's having that experience, that thing that you've always wanted to do, like going to see LeBron James front row at the game. Maybe it's buying that car. Or maybe it's doing that thing that you always dreamed of, or meeting that person, or spending time with the people that you want to. Whatever that thing is, I want you to be able to experience that future. And this is why we created the one and done REO blueprint. What it stands for is purpose, security, and wealth, helping you get to financial freedom, control your time, leave a legacy, avoid mistakes with proven systems, and make an impact on the world. The first way that we help with doing that is with the ultimate location selection formula. Now, the reason why this is important is because this shows you exactly where and where not to do one of these homes. And that's an incredibly important thing to know. The hands-off staffing playbook is the second thing that you get with that. And the reason why this is important is because it's about working on your business, not in your business. So knowing how to put those key people in those right positions is very important. The funding and resources vault. The reason why this is important is we said it. Whether you have all the money in the world or no money, we show you different ways to get started in this business. And then the proven LZH process, the licensing, zoning, and HOAs, showing you how to get through those processes as absolutely as fast as possible. And then the fill it fast formula. The reason why this is important is because you got a great home in a great area, but now it's about filling it up even before you open up your doors and do that ribbon cutting ceremony. And then the behind the scenes virtual home tour. This I love because you get to go through our homes and students from all over the country, and we show you exactly how we set up our homes and exactly how we do that. All of those things we do in a 3-day immersion class. We do in-person trainings in Phoenix, and we do online virtual 3-day events as well online. They're both phenomenal. They're always on Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. And yes, we have a little happy hour on that Thursday night before. So that's a lot of fun too. But all those things, the ultimate location selection formula, the hands-off staffing playbook, the funding and resources vault, proven LZH process, fill it fast formula, and the behind-the-scenes virtual tours, total value $9,997. Now, I know that's worth a whole lot more than that. But here's the thing. If all that did was help give you the confidence to go out and start one of these homes this year, would it be worth it? If all this did was allowed you to quit your job so that way you could spend your time the way that you wanted to, would this be worth it? If all this did was allowed you to do good and do well, help your community, have that purpose, leave your mark on the world, wouldn't it be worth it? If you answered yes, yes, and yes, I want you to put that in the chat right now. Because if it does, then you're at the right place at the right time. That investment for our training is 4997. Now, I told you that by the end of this presentation, I was going to be giving you a very, very special opportunity, and I'm going to make this such an incredibly easy decision for you to make here, and I'm going to go ahead and get into that right now. The first thing is that investment. Well, we're going to make that a whole lot easier. Your money back guarantee investment, I'm going to show you how it's even better than that here in just a moment. 1997, a $3,000 discount, bringing that 4997 down to 1997. Now, the way that you're going to do that, and we'll put this in the chat here in a little bit, but you're going to go to www.rel3day.com and you're going to put in the promo code PROTECT, and you're going to put that in with all capital letters. www.rel3day.com, code word PROTECT. Now, the first bonus that you're going to be getting with that, I told you, I'm going to make this an incredibly easy decision for you. The first thing that you're going to get is the roadmap to success. Now, what's great about this is a 12-step process from coming out to the class, to finding the right home, to acquiring it, to filling it, and then copying and pasting it and doing it again. The second bonus you're going to get is the foundations course. Now, this right here, before you even come out to the training, we have you go through this so that way when you come out to the training, we're going at a running start instead of saying, oh, okay, this and that. No. We give you that foundations course before you even come out to the training. And then the third thing is the RAL Profitability Calculator. This allows you to look into deals and run numbers and see if a deal makes sense or not makes sense. And this is just a really, really cool tool that we give to you so that way you can run through those numbers. And that thing is phenomenal. So all of those things that we talked about, in addition, those bonuses of that foundations course, the roadmap to success, and the profitability calculator, 1997. Now, I told you that I'm going to make this, I don't know how much easier I can make this. I'm going to give this to you right now. 7-day money back guarantee. I don't want anything to hold you back. If you're saying my spouse or my partner wasn't here or this wasn't that, no. Because I want to give this to you right now. 7-day money back guarantee. And if for any reason, it's not right for you, whatever, keep the roadmap to success, keep the foundations course, and keep the REL profitability calculator. That's our gift to you, because I don't want you to, cheat yourself and say, you know what, I can't do it because this, no. I want to make this as easy of a decision as possible for you. So that's what I did for you right there. The way that you do that, www.rel3day.com, code word PROTECT. Now, our next events that we have coming up, February 17th through the 20th, March 31st through April 3rd, and June 2nd through the 5th. Now, if you don't know what training that you can come out to, that's okay. Just sign up for one of the trainings and give us a call a week or two before. If you have to move things around, that's fine. But lock in those bonuses and lock in that event so that way you don't lose your spot right there. Now, I know some people are like, 1997, that's a lot and this and that, compared to what? College right now, it's $10,000 a year for public in-state, $21,000 for out-of-state, $35,000 for out-of-state private right there. I got a friend, he's in med school. He's been in med school for about 10 years going through this whole process. He's coming out, he's $400,000 in debt. He's coming out, he's going to be making about $200,000. Well, here's the thing. We're talking about doing one home, not $400,000 in debt. We're talking about making 2 to 3 times potentially what he's making. Not $400,000 debt, 1997 to get the education to learn how to do that. But the real question is, are you worth investing in? I know when I was down and out, I really needed someone to believe in me. And you know what? I believe in you, because I know that if I can achieve what I put down on that piece of paper that day, then I know you can go out and do it for yourself. At this point, it's time to take action. But I want to give you one more thing. And by the way, we're going to have all these things open for the next 30 minutes right here, because I want to be very, very clear. I reward people who take action. I want to reward people who are serious about doing good and doing well. It's not a penalty for those people who, can't make a decision. No. It's a reward and it's a bonus for people who are serious about taking action, who are doing good and doing well, who are saying, how can I make it work? So this bonus is going to be just for the first 30 minutes right here, just like all the other ones that we have going on. And let me get into that right now. Do you want everything for free? All right. Do you want everything for free? And you know what? Actually, I'm looking at this. This is going to be for the first 7 of you because I want to reward people who are serious about taking action. This is that additional bonus that I said, I'm just going to put this thing over the top. What we have for you right here is our rebate offer. Open your first RAL within 12 months of taking the class, and we will rebate your tuition. Now, here's the thing. Why would we do that? Here's why. We want your success to be an inspiration to others. Because when you go out and do good and do well, you inspire that next person, and that next person, and that next person. And we can positively impact millions and millions of people. So if you're serious about doing good and doing well, you know what you need to do. www.rel3day.com, code word protect, and let's do good and let's do well. Now, I wanted to give you all those bonuses, and I also wanted to give us a chance to sit and talk after this presentation. So I got my little thing coming up right here. Let's see, we got our next classes, and I got that on my next slide right here. But we got right here, I told you, I want to reward those who are serious about taking action. So we're going to start that for the next 30 minutes. And Kendall, I'm open for questions and anything that we want to go over and things like that. I know I see some people coming in right now. Congratulations, who just signed up. That's awesome. I'm just getting, my phone is dinging right over there. So that's awesome stuff right there. But I'm going to go ahead and pull up the questions that we had throughout the thing. And let's go ahead and let's jump into things. All right. So let's see.
Great. I'll just say real quick, Manny, that's the best offer genuinely that we've ever seen. Seriously, very, very much appreciate that. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. And if you think education's expensive, try ignorance. Absolutely true. Right? Trial and error is not the way you want to go. And I can genuinely vouch for Manny and his team. I've actually been out. I've seen the properties. They're beautiful. I've met the team, met the people. They know what they're doing. So we wholeheartedly support Manny and his team. Thank you for that generous offer, Manny. We really do.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And I don't know if they were sending questions to you directly. I just love the interaction we're having going on here. I see one right up here at the top. Joyce, I'll keep all names out of it. My apologies. But we'll call this person Derek. Are there government programs or financing available if we want to provide assistance to our elderly parents and have a mother and type apartment in our home we live in, type of care qualify for? So with this one right here, here's the thing. A lot of people often ask, why doesn't everyone just move their own mom, their own dad into their home? And the big thing with that is that, we're not all cut out to be caregivers. I know I'm not, not everyone is. And the other thing is when you're taking care of your mom or dad 24 hours a day, you can't really go out and make any money. And so if you have like a ton of money, that's great for you. But, for a lot of people, they're not in that situation where they got to take away all their income, do a job that's not for them. And then most importantly, on top of that, we have a certain relationship with our mom, with our dad, and we want what's best for them. We want to take care of them so badly. But when you get into that caregiver, resident type relationship, that's just very, very hard emotionally. And so that can be a very, very tough thing right there. So if someone doesn't have any money though, the state will pay about $2,000 a month for them to move into an assisted living facility or a home. But they're going to make sure that this person has no money, no way of doing it, and all this stuff. And then they're going to make that happen. But wanted to go over that one right there. I see right here, Diana, that said $995. Mom pays a frozen $9,500 a month. Woo! That is a lot right there, Diana. That is, wow, that's a lot. All right. And then Kendall, did you say we had questions over there? Should I just keep reading over right here? Because I see some were answered and some were up here, but I'll say them.
That's all the questions we have. So go ahead and
answer. Okay, perfect. I'll just start going through all these.
Yep.
What is the square footage required for 10 beds? Excellent question. And I'll use fake names for everyone. All right. So Alejandro, great question. So we use a general rule of thumb, 300 to 500 square feet per resident. So 300, 500 square feet per resident. If you have 10 residents in a home, 3,000 to 5,000 square feet is going to fit them very, very comfortably. I've seen homes where it's 1,000 square feet per resident. That's overkill. Don't do that, right? That's the law of diminishing returns. I've seen on the other side though, I guess 130 square feet per person, so a 1,300 square foot home, 10 people, that's far too small. And that does not work at all. And so that's a great question right there. 300 to 500 square feet per person in that home. And by the way, I'm not going to use everyone's name just in case they ask like a personal question, or I guess I could just filter it out as we go. But it's sometimes hard to read the question in the name before. All right. Okay. I can relate. Oh, thank you. Okay, so let me go through some of these questions right here. Okay, we got the sound going. Yeah, type
They're
in those
mostly
questions.
worried about you getting to sleep with that new baby. That's the hardest part, right?
So that's a great question right there, Kendall. So
Been there.
right now, we wake up every morning 5 a.m. I'm on the 5 a.m. club. Robin Sharma, who wrote that book, it's excellent. I love it. But when I saw that the webinar was on tonight, I'm like 6:30. I'm like, oh Lord, I hope that's Eastern because I go to bed at like 8. So I'm like, I apologize. I had one yawn in there, but no,
Not at all, man. I'm impressed. I get it. Good for you.
So just so happy to be here with all you guys, and just I love doing this, and I love teaching on this concept. You know, one of the questions I often get asked, and I didn't see it pop up right here, but I'll go ahead and just keep reading through these as time goes on. But is what's the difference between the people who start one of these homes and don't start one of these homes? And I will tell you that over these past 7-8 years, you know, it's really, really interesting. We've had people from every single walk of life that you can imagine. We've had multimillionaires. We've had people who don't have 2 pennies to rub together. People with all the college degrees, no college degrees, you know, everything. And what we have found is that there's one determining factor, and it's that person's why. And that's all it comes down to. Because many times when we have that multimillionaire come out to the class, and we'll always have 2 or 3 people come out and they drive to the class in their Ferrari or Lamborghini or something. That's cool. But for them, they don't have a why. They don't have that drive. And so they've already kind of won the game and they're like, I'm done. And so then we see someone and they like really don't have this crazy background or all the money or all the connections. I think about like a Carla Lee. Carla Lee, she was actually so successful. Once she sold them off, she said, I want to start teaching everyone else about this. She's actually on our staff now. So you come out to the class, you'll get to meet her and hear her full story. But for her, you know, dyslexic, learning, you know, disabilities and different things of that from a poor town in, you know, New Mexico, and just really nothing to her name, but she just took what we taught and she actually applied it. That's the biggest thing is, you know, this is America. You know, we don't live in North Korea right here. If you live in North Korea, that's a different story. If you want to be successful or not, you got to worry about escaping first, but you're in America. So, you know what I mean? Every day we wake up, it's like, oh my goodness, how lucky and how blessed we really are. But that's the biggest thing is that why is that biggest thing right there. So let me go ahead and let me try to, okay, I see some questions jumping in. I love it. All right.
And I will say, to back you up on that one too, Maddie, just the people we've met through RAL, the do good, do well really does shine through. So being a real estate investor is one thing, right? It's nice to make money. You got to make money to live in this world. That's part of the game. You want to provide for your family, but sometimes it just becomes about another flip, you know, your next property, and that can get tiring and unfulfilling. And so do good and do well. Truly, the people we meet at RAL honestly have good hearts and they really do want to they want to make some money, but it's not all about the money. It's about helping others. And that's very much we find to be true with anybody who's done RAL.
Yeah. And it's really, you know, and you know this, Kendall, it's once you focus on doing good and helping people and making the world a better place and that strong why, the money follows. And it's one of those really hard things sometimes when you don't have that success to kind of visualize, because you're like, no, once I get money, then I'll be a good person. Then I'll go out there and help the world. It's like, no. This thing works the opposite way. That's what's beautiful about, you know, capitalism is you can make all the money in the world. You just got to bring massive amounts of value. And so it's just a great thing that we get to do here. But I see some questions coming in, so I'm going to start answering them. Does Jackie right here, does the property need to be zoned for RAL to obtain? Do you need a special city permit? So it's just residential zoning on these properties, but the home is going to be licensed through the state and through the city. And what they're making sure of is 2 main things. They're making sure that the home is safe for seniors, and they're making sure that the person applying for the license is an appropriate person to be applying for that license. They didn't just leave jail from some like heinous crime or something like that. No, they're the right person to be overseeing that home. And so really that's what's going on there. So we're doing it in single family residence. And, you know, one of the things I forgot to mention in here, the federal fair housing laws say you cannot discriminate against the elderly. And so this is one of the big things, like when it comes to HOAs, I'm sure that's probably one of the questions that comes up. HOAs can't discriminate against the elderly. They can't say you can't do this and you can't do that. No, you can do one of these homes wherever you want, but I want to be very, very clear. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. I could have come on this webinar without a shirt on. I'm sure a few of you, maybe one or two people would have appreciated that, the couple hundred I think that we're on. But
No.
the majority, all right, maybe 5 or 6 people. All right, I've been doing my P90X. So, but that would not be a good thing to do. And it's the same idea here is we want to do these homes in the right places. That's one of the big things we talk about, the ultimate location selection formula. Choosing the right area is incredibly, incredibly important with this. So location when it comes to RALs. What was Laura asked? What was the name of that book again? The Demographic Cliff was referenced. Rich Dad Poor Dad was referenced, but you said the one about demographics. So that'd be the Demographic Cliff, Harry S. Dent Jr. Okay. Anonymous attendee says, I get the opportunity, but how does one protect from liability? I know some pretty good people who know a thing or two about liability, and that's called Protect Wealth. And that's actually, Don comes out to our trainings and he's there for consults when you're there. So Anonymous, we're going to have to know a little bit more about you to help you, if you want us to understand fully how we can do that best. But
people are scared about the is there extra? I guess the question probably really is, it's true. I know anonymous attendee. I think you're the same anonymous attendee that was at the summit this week. So you probably know a lot about that and we're happy to help you. But so probably questions about the insurance side. Does it take a lot of extra insurance to have an RAL?
That's a great question. So the answer to that is we have what's called professional liability insurance for a group home in a residential setting. That's a bit of a mouthful coming through right there. It's about $1 per day per resident. And I believe it might be $1 or $2 per person. So if you think about that, $1 per day per resident, 30 days in a month, $300 a month. If it's $200 or it's $2, that's $600 a month. So it's a line item. And one of the big things is, we always recommend have your insurances, this and that. We live in America. Okay. You can, slip on an ice cube. You're walking on the sidewalk and go, sue your government. I mean, it's just the way it is. But one of the big things is one of the myths of residential assisted living, one of the beautiful things about residential assisted living, I'll tell you this, there's these barriers to entry, right? And that's a mental barrier to entry. Oh my goodness, all this liability and this and that. Well, yeah, if you're a terrible care homeowner and you're doing all these bad things, yeah, you probably should be worried about whatever business you go out and do. But if you're a very nice person, if you're a good person, if you have your insurances, really, it's in God's hands at that point. You need to always remember that. If you're doing the right things, you're good. I forget what book it was. It might be in Outliers right there. I got behind me. The Malcolm Gladwell book. He talks about the doctors who need the most medical malpractice insurance, which is not what we're doing here. It's not medical malpractice, professional liability insurance. But he says in that book, the doctors who need the most, it's not any difference between if they're a good doctor or if they're a bad doctor, right? It could be a doctor who messes up all the time. But if they have good bedside manner, they care about the family, they care about the person, they know how to work well with people, then those people, rarely ever anything ever bad happens to them. It's the doctors, and sometimes it's the best doctors, but they just have bad bedside manner. Those are the people that need to worry about that. But one of the things I was touching on was that one of the great things is those perceived barriers to entry. If you know how to get over them, and if you can get over those mental hurdles, what's beautiful about it is that competition, it stays out. And so let me give you another good example of this. I was in Connecticut one time and someone came up to me and they said, Manny, I found out I can't do this in Connecticut. I said, what do you mean? Like, tell me more. And they said, well, I found out if I do a 2-story home, I might have to put in a chairlift or an elevator. And, that's more work than I wanted to do. And I said, oh, okay. That's a little bit different. See, notice that person now is going to go, let me go to something with lower barrier to entry. So like wholesaling. I love wholesaling. It's great, but it's a very, very low barrier to entry. It's very low cost. Anyone can kind of do it starting tomorrow. So there's lots of competition. Everyone's getting those same 50 postcards. With this, what's beautiful about it is once you get inside, once you know how to do it, then the competition stays out. So you get to enjoy it all. So it's really just a question of learning how to do this properly. And then that way you're set. So I spent a ton of time on this. So let me just keep moving forward on some of these. Let's see. Okay, got it.
So it looks like one is, are the rates for assisted living facilities per bed or per room? You kind of covered some of that, but it's
Oh,
per
great
bed.
question.
And sometimes you do 2 per room, right?
Yeah. So in an assisted living, and this is a fun one. In an assisted living, many times people think, oh, well, should we do shared rooms? Don't they want to have someone that they can talk to and all these things? And, here's the thing, it's not a college dorm room, right? At this stage of their life, they've probably been living in their home, for the last 50 years, and they've been by themselves maybe for 5 or 10 years. And now they're moving into this new home. They want their own room, right? They want their own home, but if they can't have that, then they want their own room. So for a private room, you can get a whole lot more when it comes to rates. And so just kind of further that point, a shared room can get you a lower rate in one of these homes, but a lot of people don't want to do that. And let me give you an example. If I went to your city right now and I found someone off the street, maybe they're a normal person, maybe they're not, who knows? But I found someone, I said, hey, this person's going to sleep in your bedroom tonight. I'm going to, not in your bed, right? That's a different story. But in your bedroom, I'm just going to set up a little twin size bed over here, and they're going to be over here. But we're going to cut your mortgage by 30%. You'd be like, no, I don't like that. I don't know, right? You wouldn't want that. And so, with assisted living, when you have private bedrooms, they can get a whole lot more when it comes to rates each month. So that's how we have that right there. But I see some other, and then Kendall, if you have some other ones, I see Kevin's got one here. What is the viability of doing this as a passive investment? So Kevin, that would be more the third option, or kind of more that first option, right? Where you're saying, I just want to be a private lender, or you're saying, I want to own one of these homes and just lease it out to someone who's running that assisted living business with that home. And so those are kind of the two ways that you can do that. Now, you're not going to be getting the $10, $20, $30,000 each month. However, there are some benefits to it. Like we were talking about, usually what we see is twice the fair market rent. Long-term low impact tenants, they're not raising pit bulls in the spare bedroom and, dissecting motorcycles in the living room. They are lights are out by 8:30, just like it is at the Greeno household over here. So they are much, much lower impact, which is just a beautiful, beautiful thing. So that's kind of one of the benefits there.
So I'm going to jump in real fast too. We do have a few questions coming in about the offer. So, so the address is in the chat screen. So go ahead and click on the link in the chat screen. It's rel3day.com. And then when they go there, they select a date, and then you can see there, to get the discount, you have to type in the offer code to get that discount, correct?
Yes, you need to put in the promo code PROTECT. And I apologize, I was just reading through some of the questions. PROTECT, all caps. Is that the question?
All caps? Okay, good to know. All caps, great. All right, yeah. So a few of you had questions about that. So all caps, that'll get the discount. You should be all set to go.
And if it's not all caps, go ahead and try just the P, and then go ahead and try all no caps. Krista, I put her on that, and I am almost certain I told her all caps. I might have just put all caps though, because it does look very pretty with the writing. So, yeah.
Okay, try one or both. Sometimes it should work, and it looks like a lot of people are getting through.
Okay, good.
A few people, I'm having them email me. We have some people out of country that may want to do that, so it doesn't work because it's an out of country address. So for them, but email me, we'll get you over. We'll take care of you.
Well, one of those things that baby boom spike, I mean, that happened all over the whole entire world, because after World War II, people came home, they said, thank goodness that's over. And they hugged and they kissed their wives. And all of a sudden it's like, whoop, we got the first kid. And then they said, that's fun. They got the second kid, third kid, fourth kid. And, that baby boomer generation came along. So that baby boomer spike happened all over the world. Now, one of the things, if we do have some people from out of state, let's say we got someone from England or Canada or Australia or Mexico, these countries can be very, very similar to America, but they are totally different countries, totally different rules, totally different everything. So a lot of things that we teach will apply if you're in another country. Let's say you're in Australia, a lot of things will apply, but we will always say, we are the top #1 trainers in the US, for our country. But your country is different rules, different things. So you always have to understand that. We've had students from Canada and Australia. And if you're looking to invest in the US, then this is the training that you're going to want to take. But if you're saying, hey, I want to go run this in my own country, well, you need to understand It is a different country. They do have different rules and processes. So I always just want to make sure to say that as a disclaimer. So
I like it. I like it. We like disclaimers over here, right? It's all. It's a good thing. So you kind of covered this a little bit. How do you find residents?
Oh, great question. There are just like on some standard typical ways, there are what's called placement agents. So a placement agent, you may have heard of what's called a place for mom. And so that's a really, really big placement agency. So if you type on Google right now and you go on there and you say, assisted living by me, I want to move into an assisted living, then what will happen is a bunch of Google things will come up, and a lot of them will be a place for mom. So you click on that, it'll send you 10 assisted livings nearby you. And if you go and you move into one of those, then it's a free service to the consumer. And it's not free because it costs the care homeowner that first month's rent that they're going to pay out to a place for mom. And a place for mom acquired that lead, sent that over to you. So there's many other ways to do that. Most placement agencies, though, they're not like a place for mom. That's a big one. They're just kind of a sole proprietor. They're just an individual who's going out there. And it's almost like an apartment hunter, like a realtor who's helping someone do that. So building those key relationships is a really, really big thing. But also building those key relationships with those people in your community, like the elder law attorneys and social workers and those senior real estate specialist realtors who are working with those older people, and going to them and bringing value. How can you help them? And when you bring value first, then other people say, hey, how can I help you? And really the big thing is, being that leader in your community. We go over those relationships that you need to make, how to make them, and we go over a whole bunch of other ideas, but those are just kind of some of the big ones that we go over. But this business, this is a relationship business. This is a word of mouth business, because if you have a friend and their mom or dad went into a facility, they had a good experience. Well, guess who else is going into that facility? Your mom or dad, right? It's a word of mouth industry. And so being in front of that is incredibly important. We go over how to do all those things. And that's in the Fill It Fast formula that we go over as well. We have an awesome instructor who teaches on that. And so we go over to that big time in the training, that's for sure.
Yeah, I know we're getting short on time. So I know we kind of promised them to finish about 8 o'clock our time here. So we're a little over that. You want to do a few more questions, Maya? Are you still okay?
Let's do one more. Let's do one more. And then I'll leave the clock on. And so that way we'll have that up there. So if anyone wants to jump in, they can do that.
Deal. Okay. So Hannah asked this one. I think this is a very relevant one. Sorry, no, not Hannah. But what's the real estate market? It's so high. So how can anyone afford to buy anything for assisted living? And we look at real estate. We have a lot of real estate investors always looking at the next opportunity. And I talked to a lot of flippers. They're not finding properties right now. It's too hot. Right. I talked to a lot of people who want to buy single family homes. You're not finding that 1% deal anymore, guys. Right. Really hard to find now. So what is next? Demand is high for this. So can you afford a home for this? You kind of covered that, but maybe a little more detail on that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And so one of the things that's really, really great about this is we're talking about making $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month off of one of these homes. So if you're buying, and this again is not $100,000 property. These are nicer homes in nicer areas. One of the things when you're buying these nicer homes in nicer areas, you get to ride that wave with that appreciation. But the biggest thing that I want you to think about is it's buying a deal that makes sense today, that makes sense tomorrow, that makes sense in the future. And no matter what industry you're in, no matter where you are, there will always be good deals out there. And it's a matter of you going out, understanding the processes of how to find them. And so it's really understanding what you're looking for and then just understanding the numbers. And so one of the things I go over is, how to research your market. There's 5 steps to going over that in the training. And it goes over exactly how to look into a market. I use, for an example, in the training, a city like Scottsdale. And I say, okay, if we're in a Scottsdale, how do we determine if this area makes sense? Okay, now what's the next step, next step, next step? And when you run those numbers, a deal either makes sense or doesn't make sense, but there's always deals that are out there. And really the bigger question is, are you willing to unturn those stones to find those deals? But the bigger thing too is, guys, we're talking about making $10, $20, $30,000 a month. We're not talking about making $100 or $200. You got to buy really, really cheap to make those deals make sense. We have a lot more wiggle room with what we're doing. And so that's a beautiful thing about assisted living is there's a whole lot more breathing room with these type of deals. Unlike with a single family home, if somebody trashes the house and leaves, you're kind of straight out of luck. So with us, we got a whole lot of breathing room when you're bringing in, $10,000 to $30,000 a month, depending on that deal. So that's what I'd say there.
I love it. Very cool. So something you said really resonated with me. Successful people make decisions quickly. I fully believe on that. I've learned that over and over and over to be successful at different things in my life personally. You got to make that decision and follow through and do it. Not dumb decisions, but calculated decisions. And you guys know, over the last several summits we've done, we bring on the best of the best. I would say Manny is the best of the best. If you're looking for a great real estate opportunity, this is it. I mean, the demand is there, and it will be there for a long time. And I love how you say it. You'll get involved one way or another.
One way or another. We all played this game. We all get involved. You might as well be on the right side of the equation.
We should be. I love it. Manny, seriously, thank you so much for your time. So again, the link is there in your chat screen. Go ahead and click on that and sign up. And that's a good offer. Really, that's really the next couple minutes. Is that right, Manny?
Yeah. And that's a big thing is, and by the way, if someone has a technical problem or something, reach out to Kendall, reach out to the team. They'll go ahead and get that taken care of. But I want to put this up here because we want to work with people who are serious about taking action and doing good and doing well. And if you think the road to success is going to be like this, okay, I'm going to wait 1 month to make one decision. No, you got to make decisions. You got to, when you know something's right in your heart and your mind, you got to start taking action towards those things. So I want to reward those who are serious about that. We have that offer for them. And so I know a number of people have already moved forward with that. So congratulations to those of you that have. We are very, very excited to be working with you. And it's just, our honor to be able to come on here and to share this with you. And what's cool about, my father, I got my photo of him right behind me right here. His life, was dedicated to helping others learn how to do good and do well. And we are just incredibly honored that we get to carry on that torch and to carry that to the next generation. So for those of you who are serious about doing good and doing well, you know what you need to do. Get signed up, come out to that next class. Next one in February is virtual. The next two after that are live. And so here's what I would say is there's no excuses. All right. It's not, I can't travel. I can't. No. You can have it right there on your phone, right there on your computer. We are excited to teach you, and we are excited to teach you how to do good and do well. I just want to say thank you to all of you for coming on tonight. We're just excited to get to meet a whole bunch of you coming out of this next class.
Manny, we're honored to have you. Thank you so much, everybody, also for being on. We fully support it. I've got Gene right here with us at all times. Honestly, think about it all the time. We sincerely stand behind everything that Manny says on this. Really, truly, we appreciate your time. And Manny and everybody else, thank you for being on. It's a great offer from a great company, and they do stand behind what they do. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We very much appreciate it, everybody. Have a great night.